Hello everyone, Throttle-On John here. We're working on this 2003 RAV4. We're doing an automatic transmission oil change. For some of the older Toyotas with the older fluid, I think it's the Type 4, they recommend 3 years or 30,000 miles is recommended. For some of the newer fluid, the world standard fluid, it's decreased interval. So I've heard 6 years or 60,000 miles or so. And that's by the car nut, so I'll reference his link in the description. I think he gives really good sound advice. So unfortunately, this is at 105,000 miles. I don't think it's ever been changed, the transmission, automatic transmission fluid, as a Type 4 fluid with a red dipstick. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change the transmission fluid and filter here, and it should be pretty easy. I have the fluid, 3.7 quarts for this model. I have a transmission fluid filter from the Toyota dealer, and I have the seal for the drain pan. So let's go ahead and get started. Toyotas are very well built. I mean, I'm going through this RAV4, and they need to be serviced though. I mean, sometimes people neglect the transmission. I don't think this has ever been changed. You can see the transmission down there. Have the starter and the transmission below that. So we're gonna go ahead and get this up in the air, and it looks like a pretty easy job. And you can see this kind of has the red dipstick, so that means it has the Type 4 fluid. And I'm going to use the Type 4 fluid there. If you have a 2003 RAV4, here's the Toyota part number on the gasket. You can pause the video if you need to reference that. And then we have a drain plug, or excuse me, an O-ring for, I believe that could be for the transmission filter, but we'll find out. And then here is went ahead and got a drain plug washer. And then here is the transmission filter part number as well. Okay, and then we have, of course, the Type 4 fluid, 4 quarts. Also, feel free to like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. I'm gonna talk about the things that I've gone through with this car. This is a used car, 105,000 miles, and really a nice condition, but the previous owners pretty much changed the engine oil, and that was about it. So I'm going to show you the things, if you buy a used car, the things that I kind of have gone through on this in the last week. I've been moving pretty quickly on it, but I'm going to detail in another video what I'm doing in that for this car to make a used car reliable, or as reliable as it can be. So here's the transmission. The automatic transmission, we just removed this little shroud that was here. There's just some bolts and pins and stuff. Just take those off, and it's really easy to get to. And I guess we're gonna just remove this, let the oil drain out, and since if we were gonna just do a fluid swap, we'd just drain it and refill, but I'm gonna do a filter change, so I'm gonna have to remove all these little bolts. They look like they're 10 millimeters. So first, let's drain the fluid out. And I'm gonna clean up around this pan area just to make sure there's no debris that's going to contaminate anything. So I just wiped around here, these edges with a rag and the bottom. I just kind of clean this up. That way when I pull the pan, there won't be any debris introduced in there. Looks like it's a Allen bit, a 10 millimeter. They look like that, and that's just gonna go up in here. You're gonna put that in there, and we're going to break that loose. So we put that on there, and I pre-broke that loose because it was a bit tight, and you just turn it to the left and break it free. Now we're just going to remove that plug and let it drain out. I'm going to take a sample of this and just send it away for analysis, just curious what the condition's like. I don't know if this was changed before, but I don't think so. It's pretty dark. It doesn't smell burned per se, but it doesn't, it does have a maybe just a slight scent to it. So, you know, I'm just not sure. I put it on my gloves there. It's still red, but it's more red-brown than anything. And if this had gone much further, I probably wouldn't have changed oil, because you can, if you go up to like say 180,000 miles and the fluid's never been changed, I mean, if you change the fluid, the transmission can slip. So that's something to just consider. If you have a used car, if you're, you know, 200,000 miles and the transmission's working and it's not slipping, if you don't have maintenance records, I'd be careful about changing it. A lot of times mechanics won't change it because they can create a problem. So this one at 105,000 miles, I feel comfortable changing it, but if it had been 150, I might have just debated. I might have consulted someone first. So use your judgment, but maybe use this as, hey, don't be that person where you don't change your fluid and now you're wondering what you should do. So there's what that looks like. It's definitely wanting to be changed, but it's just too bad the previous owner, you know, didn't do that. And I'll send that away for a sample. Okay, now let's pull this the rest of the way out and let it drain out. I mean, it's still got some redness to it. Maybe it was changed once before, but I'm very suspicious of it. So we're just screwing this out. I'm making this harder. Let's just go up to that. There we go. Here it comes, and yeah, it's pretty dark. And yeah, it's got kind of a semi-burned smell to it now that I smell it. Oh yeah, look, the further it drains out, the more darker it gets. Yeah, don't be this person. Change your automatic transmission fluid. I keep smelling it. It definitely smells burned-ish. Not horrible, but doesn't smell like engine oil, put it that way. And don't let this happen to you. Take care of your transmission. Toyota transmissions will go a long time. Oh. And there is a crush washer on here. I did get a new one from the Toyota dealer, so make sure you get that. As well as the drain pan, gasket, and filter if you're going to do a full service like I am today. So I'm using Milwaukee 3/8 drive electric ratchet here, and I'm just going to take all these bolts out all the way around. Okay, this pan isn't coming off, so I'm just going to gently pry around some of the edges. Do it in areas that won't damage the pan, like, you know, just strictly around the edges. And make sure you have something underneath it, whether it's a drain pan for when that comes off or catching the extra fluid that might come out. So here's a nice little spot where I can get a big screwdriver in and just wedge in there a little bit. And that is a good place just on the edge there. We're gonna be real careful not to bend anything, so take your time. And I can attest when that comes off, more fluid does come pouring out. So sorry I didn't catch it, but there's a lot of fluid that came out when we took that off. So now it's going to be a matter of, I think I'll change out the filter first. Looks like there's just 1, 2, 3 10 millimeter bolts, 8 or 10 millimeter bolts right here. 1, 2, and 3. And looks like a 10 to me. And then we'll just put in a new filter. And we'll clean up these mating surfaces for the new gasket and take off this old gasket, and we'll put it back together. So now it's just a matter of taking out these 3 bolts for the filter. There's 1. There's 2. And then let's do the 3rd one. And then it's just a matter of taking this filter, giving it a little wiggle, and get ready for more oil. It looks like there is an O-ring on that filter that we'll need to make sure we put the new O-ring that came with the filter on the filter. See that O-ring there? So here's the new O-ring. We're going to be sure to put this on the new filter, and you should have that. You probably could swap one off the old filter in a pinch, but if you're going through all this work, why would you want to use a old O-ring? and make sure that's seated on there nice and, you know, square around the bottom. It just rolls right on, no problem. And we could put a little fresh automatic transmission fluid on this O-ring, and then we're just gonna put this back up in the way that it came out and put the bolts back in. And although we took these out with a electric ratchet, I always put these in, you know, start these with your fingers so that you don't cross thread something. That'd be terrible to cross thread something like this, because there's, you know, it's not a great fix, especially, you just don't want to have to mess with any of that. And we're going to put these in. We've started them by hand, so we're not cross-threaded. And then I'm just going to take a ratchet. I'm not going to use an electric ratchet, a hand ratchet, and just snug those down. Not crazy tight, but I'm going to make them snug. And I should mention, when I was replacing this filter, as I put it on, I was kind of wiggling it back and forth to help that O-ring seat after I'd put a little oil on it. So I just kind of wiggled it, and I went, and it popped up in there, and then I put my bolts in using my fingers. Okay, we're going to snug these up by hand with a ratchet. There we go. That's all that takes after I've seated it. And there. And you can look up torque specs on these, but I just go to where I'm snug, but not crazy tight. There'll be a point where it just kind of stops without reefing on it, and then you stop. Okay, we've got our new filter in. Nice and snug. Look, there's our dipstick. And then I've wiped around this. This is nice and clean. Now I'm just going to take the old gasket off and make sure this surface is clean. And I'm going to wipe the oil pan out and make sure it's clean and free of debris. I didn't see any large debris in there, and that's a good sign. If there was big chunks of debris in there, that might be worth consulting a mechanic. This is pretty cool. As I'm wiping around inside the pan, I see that there are these magnets. So there's their factory location. We're gonna, these actually pull and snap right up and down. We're gonna pull these off and wipe them clean and put them back in their factory locations. Okay, now you can see the gasket surfaces are clean. The cork rubber gasket that comes off that really doesn't leave really much residue. There won't be much cleaning to do. I took each magnet out. You can see there's a little spot for it to nestle in. So that one goes there. This one goes next to this little wing here on the pan, and this one goes between these little wings, so you just put those where they go. We got them all cleaned up, and I will put the gasket on, and we have our mounting surface up here is clean, and we're just going to start putting our bolts in, 10mm bolts, but we're going to do that with our fingers, not an electric ratchet. We don't want to cross thread anything. A little trick I've learned is to take some Sil-Glide or silicone grease. It plays nicely with rubber. I put it around this pan, so when I put this gasket on, it stays in place when I, install it up here on the transmission. So you don't need to do that. This isn't a sealant, it's just a grease to kind of help pack down the gasket, hold it in place while I install the pan. You don't need to do this. This is an optional step. It just seems to make it a little easier. I just love doing a job and knowing it's done right. It's just, our magnets are clean, our gasket's on. Make sure you put your oil plug back in with a new washer if it needs it, and tighten that down. And now I'm just going around and I'm snugging up all these bolts. And I held this up as I put down one just hand tight here and here, so that it just held up and I was sure the gasket was seated. And then I threaded all these in by just finger tight. And now it's just a matter of snugging them up sequentially. I don't think you have to go too overboard here. I mean, I'm using this hand driver to put them in, and then I'll finish off with a ratchet. I'm just kind of going to this side, and then I'm going to go, over here, and then I'm going to go over here, and it's not going to be a perfect star pattern, but I'm just going to make sure you don't like tighten all one side tight and then tighten this side tight and, bend your pan. Just, sequentially rotate around. Just make sure this is going up flat. Just kind of use your common sense. A little trick is I choke up on the ratchet like this so I don't get too much torque, and now I can go around and just make sure each of these are snug. And I've gone around by hand many times with my hand driver, and now I'm just gonna make sure those are snug. Not crazy tight, we don't want to bend the pan. So what do you think about this, folks? It says on this dipstick for the transmission, it says no need to replace automatic transmission fluid under normal driving conditions. See owner's manual when replacing. So, you know, we all saw the condition of the oil. I am going to send it off for analysis. My guess is it's definitely used its service life. Those magnets needed to be cleaned. The oil smelled mildly burned, not horribly burned, but just very mild. It just smelled tired. So this oil is going to go in where the dipstick was. So I pulled that out, found a narrow filter that is clean, and put that in here. And then we're going to replace this with Toyota ATF Type 4 fluid. So this is what we're going to use. I guess there are some other things you can use, but I'm just going to play it safe. So we're going to put 3.7 in, quarts in, and then I'll probably run the vehicle a little bit, let it circulate through the filter, and then recheck. And you can see here's your low. Sorry about that. I'll try to get it to focus. On this dipstick, there's a low. Let me start pointing that with my fingers. Here's the high hot. And then you can see over here, there's the low when it's cooler mark over here. So we'll, you know, adjust, but we're going to put 3.7 in to start. And what do you think, folks? Does the new fluid look different than the old red fluid or burn fluid that I have over here? Yeah, I think it does. So here we go. Let's put this in here. Oh yeah, it looks better. I'm glad we're doing this. Just add it in slowly. 3.7 quarts. You could add just like 3.5 quarts and then, you know, run it and check and then top off, but I'm going to put 3.7 in, maybe a tad under, and then, you know, run the vehicle. I'm going to check it hot, I'm going to check it cold to make sure I end up in the right place on that dipstick. And I am going to send a oil analysis away for the, you know, transmission fluid, the old transmission fluid, to see how it was doing, just because I'm curious. It's, you know, red-brown, mildly burned, but not horrible, so it's not like I'm worried about the transmission. Yeah, and like and subscribe. I'll let you know when I get the results back what it was like. I'll just do an update. Let's see how we're doing. And of course, make sure you remove your funnel and put your dipstick back in. Warm your car up, or at least start the car, circulate the oil, then recheck it. And you can recheck it hot by using the upper, you know, the hot indicators on the dipstick, or check it cold and use the cold indicators on the dipstick. But I would start the car just for at least, you know, 10 to 20 seconds, 30 seconds, just to let the transmission circulate oil through the new filter that you installed, if you did put a new filter on. So I pulled the dipstick out, put it back in, and I'm below the hot marks there. You can kind of see I'm not up to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and, I wouldn't say I was hot, but I did run the car and ran it through the gears. So I'm going to go ahead and check this after it's sat a little bit, and I'm going to check it after it's, you know, really up to operating temperature. Worst case scenario, I'd suck a little bit out through the dipstick hole with a, you know, an evacuator, but we'll see. You don't want to have this overfilled either. So make sure you do due diligence and make sure you're not above the hot marks when the vehicle's hot. And there you have it. Doing some work on this RAV4, and changing the automatic transmission fluid was actually pretty easy. Very easy. If we just did a drain and fill without the filter, it'd be easier yet, but this car had 105,000 miles. I wanted to get the pan off and look around in there, and I'm glad I did. Got it all cleaned up, got the magnets clean, new filter, and I really don't expect any problems with this transmission. There weren't any big chunks in the pan or anything alarming at all. I think we're going to be fine, but you know, take care of your Toyota and it'll just keep going for a lot of miles. And feel free to stay tuned. I'm going to talk about what do you do for a used car. When you get a used car, it's used to you, new to you, but used. What did we do to this car to make it reliable? I'll just do one where I kind of talk about, you know, what we did to make sure that this won't unnecessarily leave us stranded on the road from something that was preventable. Okay, with the magic of YouTube, I got my oil analysis back from Blackstone Labs, and there's lots of places you could do this, but it's just a kit I had around. But anyway, you can pause on this if you want to. Here's my values. Here's the values of a normal sample at 38,000 miles of this kind of fluid. We're at, 105,000 miles for the first change, and this is definitely its first change. I guess the big takeaway for me was viscosity was slightly out of range. Should be between 5.1 to 7.9, and we're at 4.98. So it's good we're changing it. So I'm glad I got this stuff out. And there's silicone, they thought, from break-in of a new transmission, all the old seals, because with never getting a change, all that stuff's been running around in there. They talk about how, this is what we'd expect with an initial fill, but really this should have been changed for the Type 4 fluid at around, 30,000 miles. So, there's that. So I guess the thing I wanted to talk about was, if you haven't changed your fluid, this car was on the border at 105,000 miles. I'll attach a link to the CarNet talking about changing your automatic transmission fluid. And this car I was kind of on the fence. It had 105,000 miles. I was pretty positive from the other things. They changed their engine oil, but I was pretty sure from the other things I was finding on the car, the brakes had never been done in the front. The front struts were shot. Rotors were warped. So just the little telltale signs of this not getting a bunch of TLC was there. So I was pretty sure nobody changed the automatic transmission fluid, which, given that oil analysis, they hadn't. So where I'm going with all this is, I was on the fence about changing the oil, because sometimes if you go much over 100,000 miles with this kind of Type 4 fluid, and it has a red dipstick here, which is what most of those with the red or black dipstick take, it can slip. And I was kind of worried, well, shoot, if I change this and it starts to slip, then I've created a problem. Because when you have older oil, it has friction in it from the clutch plates from break-in, and if you change it out, sometimes your transmission will start to slip. Well, the good news is I've taken this for a drive. It doesn't slip. It actually works fabulous. Classic Toyota transmission. So I'm glad I did it. But let's create a different scenario. Let's say you had 150,000 miles on the car, and it's a Type 4 fluid, or even the world standard fluid of the newer ones without a dipstick. You'd have to think about it. Maybe you'd want to do some more research. Don't just listen to me. It's a manual transmission, of course, change it. That's fine. Nothing. It's just going to be good for your tranny. But if it's an automatic, you don't want to create an issue. So I am going to attach a video done by the CarNet channel, where he talks about that. He's given really good sound advice on that, and he talks about how you start getting up much even at 100,000 miles. He said it's a little dicey. So in this, I just wanted to post this. Maybe this helps someone. You're in a similar situation. I hope it helps. So here it is, the RAV4 two-wheel drive, automatic transmission, 2-liter motor, running great. Really happy with it, and the transmission does not slip with the oil change at 105,000 miles and roughly, a little over 20 years old. So, but again, let's say we had 130,000 miles on here, 150, maybe 200,000 miles, it may not be the right thing to change it unless you can confirm that it's been changed before. As I think the CarNet recommends every 30,000 miles for the Type 4 fluid. The Type 4 fluid looks like this. Type 4 automatic transmission fluid, and that's what's in this car. So anyway, there you have it. Toyota makes really good cars, but everything needs maintenance. So take care of your automatic transmission and change the engine oil every 5,000 miles or 6 months. And these Toyotas will run a long time. I mean, I know I did another video where we talked about it, but we put new brakes on here, had some clicking in the front, the struts were worn out, and actually the front sway bars were causing some clicking and clunking because I put new struts on it and took it for a test drive, and it's still, the new struts corrected 80% of the clunking, but the front sway bar was creating about 20%. So we swapped those out, and that got rid of some of the rest of it. Now it drives literally like a new car. I can't even tell this car's over 20 years old. So it's a nice thing about a Toyota. If you maintain them, they can be older and still be a very good car. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this channel, is help you maintain your car. Okay, hope this helps someone out who might be in a similar but somewhat different situation. And maybe comment, let me know when you're changing your oil, if it's type 4 or world standard, and what you're doing with your changing intervals. If you've had a transmission that had some slippage, let us know, and what the scenario was, and we can maybe help each other out here. So, all right, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.